Imagine escaping a prison you've known your entire life. You risk literally everything for just a taste of freedom, only to wash up on shores that hide a mystery way, way more chilling than what you left behind. Today's explainer is a total thrill ride. We're exploring the ultimate cost of fear and curiosity as we uncover the haunting truth behind the island where time stopped.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Meet Guffy. Now, Guffy grew up in a forbidden village. And I mean completely hidden away from civilization, tucked so deep between impassable cliffs and these jagged mountains that no map even showed it. Absolutely nobody ever entered, and crucially, nobody ever left. But despite being totally isolated, Guffy desperately dreamed of seeing the world.
To really get Guffy, you have to understand the absolute unbreakable law of his people. Since birth, every single kid was taught one terrifying rule: never cross the sea. The villagers genuinely believed the outside world was cursed, just filled to the brim with sickness and death. But while everyone else slept in fear, Guffy spent every single night staring out beyond the horizon, listening to the crashing waves, dreaming of his escape.
Well, eventually that yearning just becomes too much. Step 1, wait for the perfect moment. On the night of his 17th birthday, while the whole village was asleep, Guffy finally put his plan into motion. Step 2, he creeps down to the docks and steals a small fisherman's boat. Step 3, he vanishes into the pitch-black night. As he rows away from those cliffs, he feels truly free for the first time in his life. But that freedom is violently cut short. Out of nowhere, this raging storm swallows the ocean, completely shattering his boat and dragging him down into the terrifying darkness. Then, Guffy opens his eyes. He fully expects to be at the bottom of the ocean, right? But instead, the deafening roar of the storm is just gone. The air is completely still. He realizes he's lying on the shore of some strange island. He looks up and sees houses in the distance. He actually survived. He thinks he's found civilization. But as we're about to see, that sense of security is a total illusion.
As Guffy cautiously walks into the settlement, these eerie little visual cues start piling up. He sees fresh clothes hanging outside on lines, and they're still swaying, still dripping wet in the gentle breeze. It looks totally normal. I mean, someone must have just hung them up, right?
He steps inside one of the open doorways, and things get even weirder. There are bowls of food just sitting on the wooden tables. And the crazy part? The food is still warm. Outside, smoke is gently rising from the chimneys. Everything around him screams of recent, warm human activity.
So he calls out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" Nothing. Total silence. He checks the next house and then the next. Every single bed is made, every fire is lit, but there is absolutely nobody there. It's an entire village perfectly preserved right in the middle of breakfast, but completely devoid of human life. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the sheer sensory horror of it. As night falls, the island goes pitch black. Guffy takes shelter in one of these empty huts, and then he hears it. Breaking the dead silence are footsteps right outside his thin wooden door. But they aren't normal footsteps. They are slow, wet, just dragging heavily across the dirt. He realizes, with absolute dread, he isn't alone after all. He holds his breath, completely paralyzed in the dark. The dragging stops right outside his door. And then, slicing right through the quiet, a little girl's voice whispers, "You shouldn't be here." Oh man, in that moment, the cursed outside world his village had constantly warned him about suddenly felt very, very real. When morning sun finally rises, Guffy rushes outside and actually finds the source of the voice down by the river. It's a girl, but she is deathly pale, sort of ethereal, and just unnervingly still. She slowly turns to him, a living, breathing survivor, and asks, "Did the sea bring you too?" Frantic, Guffy demands to know where everyone went, and she just leans in and whispers chillingly, "They're still here." The girl then reveals the deeply tragic backstory of this ghost island. First, years ago, strangers arrived on their shores by ship. Second, almost immediately this terrible sickness began to spread. Third, paranoia rapidly consumed the villagers, and in a desperate attempt to contain the illness, they burned the strangers' ships right down to the waterline. But finally, it was just way too late. The sickness spread anyway, and one by one, absolutely everyone died. But death wasn't the end for this island. No way. As the second night falls, the true supernatural horror of Guffy's situation hits him. The island is trapped in a time loop.
In the dark, Guffy suddenly sees these shadowy figures moving inside the empty houses. He sees transparent children running through the thick fog, and he hears phantom voices laughing in the abandoned streets. The island is endlessly replaying its final days over and over. And here is the absolute most terrifying detail. As he watches them, Guffy realizes his own memories are fading. He is slowly beginning to forget his old life. The island is literally absorbing him into its loop. Realizing he only has minutes before his mind is totally gone forever, the ghost girl urgently leads him back to the dark shore. Hidden right there in the reeds, a small waiting boat sits untouched. Just before the violent storm returns to seal the island for another cycle, she looks at Guffy and asks this incredibly haunting question. If your village fears the outside world so much, will they become like us too?
The wind begins to howl. The phantoms of the island draw closer in the fog. Guffy leaps into the small boat, pushes off the sand, and rows with literally every ounce of strength he has left in his body. He fights through the crashing, roaring waves, desperately trying to outrun the time loop as the storm descends. He rows for days. He's exhausted, severely dehydrated, until finally he escapes. He sails away forever, and miraculously, days later, he washes up in modern civilization.
So the crucial point is, Guffy is finally safe. He's in this bustling port town. When people ask where he came from, he proudly says the name of his hidden village, totally expecting them to be shocked. But instead, he gets blank stares. Nobody recognizes the name. Nobody knows the cliffs or the mountains. He's frantically searching for a map. Finally, this incredibly old man overhears him, pulls him aside, and whispers, "That village disappeared 40 years ago."
Guffy was 17 when he left. But somehow, whether it was through the storm or the time loop at the Ghost Island, decades have passed. He immediately travels back to the forbidden cliffs of his childhood. But when he looks toward the mountains, the reality is absolutely devastating. There is no village. Only crumbling stone ruins remain. The people who hid from the world ended up dying while hiding from it. Everyone he ever loved is gone. It just goes to show, some islands are lost in the sea, but others are lost in time.
It's such a tragic, mind-bending conclusion. Guffy's curiosity saved him from dying in a forgotten village, sure, but it cost him his entire era, stranding him in a future where he is completely alone. It really forces us to confront an uncomfortable dilemma. If you were Guffy, knowing the terrible isolation of the village, but also the devastating price of the outside world, would you have left? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the world around you.